Commander Jiwoo stood at the center of the massive hall inside Galactic Council Space Station Nexus 7 and felt very small. The chamber stretched up so high that she could barely see the ceiling, and alien beings from dozens of different worlds sat in floating chairs that moved around her in slow circles. Their eyes, some with multiple pupils, others glowing with strange colors, all focused on her as she held the data pad containing Earth's application for membership in the Galactic Council. The air smelled of ozone and something sweet that made her nose itch. Jiwoo had trained for this moment for 3 years, learning about different alien cultures and their languages. But nothing had prepared her for the reality of standing before these ancient civilizations that had been traveling between stars, when humans were still learning to make fire. Admiral Kyung of the Valorian Empire floated down from his high seat, his blue skin shimmering with patterns that showed his mood. The Valorians were one of the most powerful races in the galaxy, and Kyung's reputation as a military leader was known even on Earth. His ship designs were taught in Earth's naval academies as examples of perfect engineering. Behind him came Chancellor Minho of the Crystalline Confederacy, his body made of living crystal that reflected light in rainbow patterns as he moved. "So," Admiral Kyung said, his voice carried by translators that made it sound like he was speaking directly into Jiwoo's mind. "The humans wish to join our council." He looked at the data pad in her hands like it was something dirty. "Tell us about your military capabilities, human. What ships do you bring to defend our shared territories?" Jiwoo activated her holographic projector, and the image of Earth's flagship appeared above them. The UES Defiance hung in the air, rotating slowly so the alien delegates could see every detail. The ship was massive, over 2 kilometers long, built with thick armor plating and bristling with weapons that looked crude compared to the elegant energy arrays on alien vessels. "This is our flagship," Jiwoo began, reading from her prepared speech. "The UES Defiance represents the pinnacle of human military engineering. She carries a crew of 8,000 and is equipped with our most advanced weapons systems." A sound like wind chimes filled the chamber as the aliens began to laugh. The sound was not cruel exactly, but it made Jiwoo's cheeks burn with embarrassment. Chancellor Minho's crystal body flashed bright orange, which she knew meant amusement. Even the usually serious delegates from the Ethereal Coalition were making soft whistling sounds that served as their version of laughter. "Your ship looks like a metal brick," said a voice from somewhere in the floating seats. Jiwoo could not see who spoke, but more laughter followed the comment. Science advisor Hana, who had come with Jiwoo from Earth, stepped forward. Hana was one of the smartest people Jiwoo had ever met, with 3 degrees in physics and engineering. If anyone could explain human technology to these aliens, it would be her. "Honored delegates," Hana said, her voice steady despite the laughter, still echoing around them. "I understand our approach to ship design may seem different from your methods, but human engineering follows different principles. Where you use energy shields and plasma weapons, we have developed kinetic weapons systems and composite armor that—" "Kinetic weapons?" Admiral Kyung interrupted, and his skin patterns shifted to deep purple. "You mean you still throw rocks at your enemies? Like primitives?" "Not rocks exactly," Hana tried to explain, but her words were lost as the laughter grew louder. Chancellor Minho floated closer to the hologram of the Defiance. His crystal fingers passed through the image as he examined the ship's design. "This armor plating is so thick it must slow the ship down terribly. And these weapon ports, they look like ancient chemical propulsion systems. Surely you do not still use gunpowder?" "We use railguns and nuclear—" Hana began. "Nuclear?" The word seemed to shock the entire chamber into silence. Then the laughter started again, even louder than before. "They split atoms for energy," someone called out. "Like we did 10,000 years ago, before we learned to harness stellar cores." Jiwoo felt her hands shake as she watched her mission falling apart. The application that Earth's greatest minds had worked on for months was being dismissed as a joke. These aliens saw humans as children playing with dangerous toys, too primitive to understand real technology. Admiral Kyung waved his hand, and the hologram of the Defiance vanished. "Commander Jiwoo," he said, and now his voice carried the tone of an adult speaking to a child. "We appreciate that your species has achieved faster-than-light travel and learned to build ships that can cross the void between stars. This is no small achievement for a young race. However," Chancellor Minho added, his crystal body now glowing a cold blue color, "membership in the Galactic Council requires more than enthusiasm. You must be able to contribute to the defense of our territories against hostile forces. Your ship designs, while no doubt impressive by human standards, would not survive 5 minutes against a real enemy fleet." The chamber fell quiet as delegates waited for the formal vote. Jiwoo knew what was coming, but she had to ask the question anyway. What would it take for humanity to prove worthy of membership? "Upgrade your fleet," Admiral Kyung said simply. "Learn to build ships with proper energy shields, plasma weapons, and quantum drive systems. When you can field vessels that match our technology standards, we will reconsider your application." "How long do we have?" Jiwoo asked. "1 standard galactic year," Chancellor Minho replied. "That should give you time to study our basic technical manuals and attempt to improve your designs." The vote was unanimous. Every delegate raised their hand, tentacle, or other appendage to reject Earth's application. Jiwoo watched the count appear on the chamber's main display: 847 votes against, 0 votes in favor, 0 abstentions. As the session ended and aliens began floating away to other business, Jiwoo gathered her materials with hands that shook with anger rather than fear. Science advisor Hana stood beside her, her face red with embarrassment and frustration. "Commander," Hana said quietly, "should we request permission to demonstrate our weapons systems? If they could see what a railgun can actually do—" "They've made up their minds," Jiwoo replied. She closed her datapad and looked up at the massive chamber one more time. "They think we're primitive children who don't understand real warfare." Admiral Kyung approached them as they prepared to leave. His skin patterns had shifted to a gentler green color that Jiwoo knew meant sympathy. "Commander, please do not take this rejection personally. Many young races go through this process multiple times before achieving membership. The galaxy is a dangerous place, and we cannot afford to bring members into our alliance who cannot defend themselves or others." "We understand," Jiwoo said, though her voice was tight with controlled anger. "I hope you do," Admiral Kyung continued. "Earth seems like a pleasant world with brave people. Work on your technology, learn from our manuals, and perhaps in time, you will build ships worthy of standing alongside ours." As Jiwoo and Hana walked through the station's corridors toward their shuttle, they passed groups of aliens who pointed at them and whispered. Word of the humans' rejection had already spread, and she could feel their amusement following her like a shadow. The shuttle ride back to Earth took 3 days through hyperspace, and Jiwoo spent most of that time staring out at the stars and thinking about Admiral Kyung's words. The aliens saw human ships as primitive metal boxes, human weapons as ancient relics from a less civilized age. They had no idea what those primitive systems could actually do when properly used. Captain Daeun of the UES Defiance received the news of the rejection while her ship patrolled the outer rim of human space. She sat in her command chair reading Jiwoo's report while her bridge crew worked quietly around her. Lieutenant Sunho, her tactical officer, watched her face carefully as she read. "Ma'am?" Sunho asked quietly. "Bad news from the council?" Daeun looked up from her tablet and smiled, but it was not a happy expression. "They rejected our application, Lieutenant. Said our ships look like metal bricks and our weapons are too primitive for civilized warfare." Chief Engineer Yeona, who was checking systems at a nearby console, snorted with laughter. "Metal bricks? Have any of them ever been hit by a railgun round moving at 10% of light speed?" "Apparently not," Daeun replied. She stood up and walked to the main view screen, which showed the endless field of stars ahead of them. They want us to upgrade our technology to match their standards before they'll consider us again. Should we start studying their technical manuals? Sunho asked. Captain Dione was quiet for a long moment, watching the stars. Then she turned back to her crew with a smile that made Lieutenant Sunho glad he was on her side. No, Lieutenant. I think we'll stick with our metal bricks and primitive weapons. Something tells me we might get a chance to show these advanced aliens exactly how effective human engineering can be. The news of humanity's rejection by the Galactic Council spread across Earth's colonies like wildfire, and Admiral Jamin could feel the anger building in every message that reached his desk at Fleet Command. The Supreme Commander of the Terran, Fleet had served in 3 different wars during humanity's expansion into space, and he knew how his people reacted when someone told them they were not good enough. Admiral Jamin sat in the emergency meeting room deep inside the Moon Base Command Center, surrounded by holographic displays showing every human ship in the fleet. Captain Dione appeared on one screen, transmitting from the bridge of the UES Defiance somewhere in the Outer Rim. Strategic Advisor Nari sat across from him, her fingers dancing over a tablet as she compiled reports from across human space. "The colonies are not taking this well," Nari said, looking up from her tablet. "New Shanghai is demanding we build 100 new ships and show the aliens what human weapons can really do. The Mars orbital shipyards are offering to work shifts to upgrade our fleet." "And what does Earth's government want us to do?" Admiral Jamin asked. "President Hyan wants to meet with you tomorrow," Nari replied. "But unofficially, he told me to ask if our ships are really as primitive as the aliens claim." Captain Dayon's image flickered on the communication screen. "Permission to speak freely, Admiral?" "Always, Captain." "Our ships are not primitive," Dayon said, and her voice carried the confidence of someone who had commanded the most powerful warship humanity had ever built. "They're different. The aliens build their ships like works of art, all smooth curves and energy fields. We build ours like fortresses that can take damage and keep fighting." "The aliens laughed at our railguns," Admiral Jamin said. "They called them primitive projectile weapons." Chief Engineer Yeona appeared beside Captain Dayon on the screen. "Admiral, with respect, let them laugh. A railgun round moving at 10% of light speed carries more kinetic energy than anything in their energy weapon systems. Their shields are designed to deflect plasma and energy beams, not solid projectiles." Strategic Advisor Nari looked up from her tablet. "Are you saying our weapons would be effective against their ships?" "I'm saying their ships are designed to fight other ships exactly like theirs," Yeona replied. "They've been using the same technology for thousands of years, just making it more efficient. We've been solving different problems with different methods." Admiral Jamin leaned back in his chair and thought about the report from Commander Jiwoo. The aliens had dismissed human technology without even asking for a demonstration. They looked at human ships and saw crude metal boxes instead of armored fortresses designed to survive in the emptiness of space where help might be days away. While Admiral Jamin planned humanity's response to the rejection, the Galactic Council faced a crisis of their own. The aggressive race known as the Hegemony had begun expanding into neutral space, attacking peaceful colonies and enslaving entire populations. Ambassador Soman of the Ethereal Coalition stood before the council chamber, pleading for immediate action. "Honored delegates," Ambassador Soman said, her voice like singing wind chimes, "the Hegemony has attacked 3 more colonies in the past week. They destroyed the orbital platforms around Kepler Prime and enslaved 2 million people. If we do not act soon, they will control the entire sector." Admiral Kyung listened to the report with growing anger. The Hegemony represented everything he despised about warfare. They fought without honor, used overwhelming force against defenseless targets, and treated conquered populations like property. The Valorian Empire had been preparing for war against the Hegemony for months. "The Valorian fleet will handle this threat," Admiral Kyung announced, standing up so his blue skin caught the chamber's lights. "We have 200 ships ready for deployment, including my flagship and 12 heavy battle cruisers. The hegemony's crude weapons and stolen technology will not stand against proper military engineering." Chancellor Minho's crystal body flashed, bright yellow as he considered the proposal. "The Crystalline Confederacy will support this action. Our energy shields and quantum weapons will ensure victory." Other delegates voiced their agreement. The Council had never lost a major fleet engagement, and their combined technology represented thousands of years of advancement. The hegemony might be aggressive and brutal, but they used stolen alien technology poorly integrated into their ships. No force in the galaxy could stand against a combined Council fleet. Ambassador Somin felt relief flood through her as the vote passed unanimously. The Council would send their finest ships and most experienced commanders to stop the hegemony's expansion. Within days, Admiral Kyung would lead the largest fleet ever assembled by the Council into battle. Back on Earth, President Hyon authorized a classified meeting that would change the course of galactic history. Dr. Jin Woo, head of Terran military research, stood before a small group of the most powerful people in human space and revealed secrets that had been hidden for decades. "Ladies and gentlemen," Dr. Jin Woo said, activating a holographic display that showed technical specifications for human warships, "the aliens rejected our membership based on outdated information. They saw our ships as they appeared 5 years ago." Admiral Jamin leaned forward. "What do you mean, outdated?" "Project Silent Thunder has been running for 8 years, Dr. Jinwoo explained. "We've upgraded every major ship in the fleet with new armor composites, improved railgun systems, and weapon technologies that we've never shared with outside observers." The hologram changed to show the interior of a human ship, but instead of the crude metal corridors the aliens expected, it displayed advanced manufacturing systems and weapon arrays that looked like nothing Earth had ever built before. The UES. "Defiance that Captain Dayon commands is not the same ship the aliens saw in our technical specifications," Dr. Jinwoo continued. "Her armor can withstand direct hits from plasma cannons. Her railguns can punch through any known shield system, and her nuclear torpedoes carry enough force to crack a moon." Strategic Advisor Nari studied the new specifications with wide eyes. "Why didn't we show these capabilities to the Council?" "Because," President Hyon said quietly, "we wanted to see how they would treat us when they thought we were weak. Now, we know exactly what kind of allies they would make." Admiral Jamin smiled as he reviewed the true capabilities of his fleet. "So, when do we show them what human ships can really do?" "Soon," President Hyon replied. "Dr. Jinwoo, how quickly can we deploy our upgraded ships to the Kepler sector?" "The UES Defiance is already in position," Dr. Jinwoo said. "Captain Dayoon has been conducting training exercises near the border for 2 weeks. We can have a full battle group there within 3 days." As the meeting continued, Admiral Kyung was preparing his own fleet for departure from Council space. His flagship, the Stellar Harmony, was a masterpiece of Valorian engineering with energy shields that could deflect a star's radiation and weapons that could destroy asteroids from 100,000 kilometers away. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving status reports from all ships in the fleet. 200 vessels ready for hyperspace jump on your command." Admiral Kyung looked at the tactical display showing his fleet arranged in perfect formation. Each ship represented the finest technology their respective civilizations could produce. The Valorian heavy battle cruisers with their adaptive energy shields, the Crystalline Confederacy's quantum cannon ships that could fire through solid matter, the ethereal coalition's scout vessels that could become invisible to most sensors. Communications. "Send a message to all ships," Admiral Kyung commanded. "We go to face an enemy that thinks brutality can overcome superior technology and tactics. Today we will prove that civilization and honor triumph over savage aggression." The fleet jumped to hyperspace in perfect formation. Their destination? The Kepler sector, where the hegemony was building a forward base. None of the alien commanders suspected that human ships were already in the area, watching and waiting. Captain Daeun stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance and watched the sensor readings as the Council fleet emerged from hyperspace. 200 ships spread out in a formation that looked beautiful and impressive, but seemed designed more for show than for fighting. "Lieutenant Sunho," she said to her tactical officer, "are you getting clear readings on their ships?" "Yes, ma'am," Sunho replied, his fingers moving over his control panel. "Energy shields on all vessels, plasma weapon arrays, standard Council fleet composition. They're following textbook formation patterns." Chief Engineer Yeona looked up from her engineering station. "Captain, our orders are to observe only unless specifically requested to assist." Captain Daeun nodded, but her expression was thoughtful. "Something tells me, Chief, that we're going to get that request sooner than anyone expects." The hegemony fleet struck without warning, emerging from hyperspace in a chaotic swarm that bore no resemblance to the ordered formations preferred by the Galactic Council. General Wu Jin commanded the attack from his flagship, a massive vessel, built from the hulks of conquered ships welded together with stolen technology and powered by pure aggression. Admiral Kyung watched the tactical display with growing concern as enemy contacts appeared on his sensors. Instead of the organized battle line he expected, the hegemony ships moved like a pack of predators, weaving between each other in patterns that made targeting difficult. Their ships looked crude and poorly maintained, but they moved with deadly purpose. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, "enemy fleet composition appears to be approximately 300 vessels of various sizes. Their formation is chaotic, but they're moving to surround our position." "Impossible," Admiral Kyung replied, studying the display. "No competent commander would break formation like that. They're leaving themselves vulnerable to concentrated fire." On the bridge of the UES Defiance, Captain Daeun watched the same tactical display with very different eyes. Lieutenant Sunho stood beside her, analyzing the hegemony attack pattern with the systematic approach taught at Earth's military academies. "Captain," Sunho said quietly, "the hegemony isn't breaking formation. They never had one to begin with. They're using swarm tactics, staying mobile to avoid concentrated fire while overwhelming isolated targets." "Exactly what I was thinking, Lieutenant," Daeun replied. "The Council fleet is set up for traditional ship-to-ship combat with organized battle lines. The hegemony is fighting like pirates." Chief Engineer Yeona looked up from her sensors. "Captain, I'm reading massive power fluctuations from the hegemony ships. Their energy systems are definitely cobbled together from stolen technology, but they're pumping enormous amounts of power into their weapons." The first exchange of fire lit up space as Admiral Kyung's fleet opened up with their plasma cannons and energy weapons. Brilliant beams of coherent light and streams of superheated plasma reached across the void toward the approaching hegemony ships, but most of the shots missed their targets as the enemy vessels twisted and rolled through space in unpredictable patterns. The hegemony return fire was crude but effective. Instead of elegant energy beams, they used massive kinetic projectiles and explosive missiles that detonated in spectacular fireballs. Where Council weapons were precise and efficient, hegemony weapons were loud and destructive. "Admiral," the communications officer aboard the Stellar Harmony called out, "the crystalline Confederacy ships are reporting shield failures. The enemy projectiles are punching through their energy barriers." Admiral Kyung felt his first moment of doubt as he watched Chancellor Minho's flagship take a direct hit from a hegemony missile. The explosion sent ripples across the crystalline hull, and pieces of living crystal began to drift away into space. "How are they penetrating our shields?" Admiral Kyung demanded. "Sir, their weapons appear to be primarily kinetic-based," the tactical officer replied. "Our energy shields are designed to deflect plasma and energy weapons, but solid projectiles are passing through with minimal energy loss." The battle quickly turned into a nightmare for the Council forces. The hegemony ships swarmed around individual Council vessels, concentrating their fire to overwhelm shields and armor. The beautiful formations that looked so impressive during peacetime maneuvers became death traps as ships found themselves isolated and surrounded. Ambassador Soman's ship, a graceful vessel designed for diplomacy rather than war, took heavy damage when 3 hegemony raiders focused their fire on her engines. Her distress call reached every ship in the Council fleet. "This is Ambassador Soman requesting immediate assistance. We have multiple hull breaches and our life support is failing." Admiral Kyung ordered 2 of his heavy battle cruisers to assist the ambassador, but the hegemony had anticipated this move. As the Valorian ships broke formation to help their ally, General Wu Jin's main force struck at the gap they left behind. "Admiral, we're being overwhelmed." Chancellor Minho's voice crackled over the communications system. "My ship has lost primary power and half our weapon systems are offline. We need to withdraw." "Negative," Admiral Kyung replied, his pride refusing to admit defeat. "The Council has never retreated from a battle. We will prevail through superior technology and tactics." But superior technology meant nothing when the enemy refused to fight by the established rules of warfare. The hegemony ships used suicide attacks, ramming damaged vessels into Council ships to cause maximum destruction. They targeted life support systems and engines rather than weapons, crippling ships instead of destroying them cleanly. Captain Daeun watched the slaughter unfold on her tactical display and felt her hands clench into fists. The Council fleet, that had rejected humanity so arrogantly, was being systematically destroyed by an enemy that fought with the same brutal efficiency humans had learned during their wars on Earth. "Captain," Lieutenant Sun Ho said, "we're receiving a distress signal on the general emergency frequency. It's Ambassador Somin." The message appeared on the main screen, and Daeun could see the elegant alien's fear as she spoke. "To any vessels in the area, this is Ambassador Soman of the Ethereal Coalition. The Galactic Council fleet is under attack and facing complete destruction. We request immediate assistance from any friendly forces." Commander Jiwoo, who had been assigned to the Defiance as a military attaché after the failed diplomatic mission, looked at Captain Daeun with questioning eyes. "Captain, they rejected our membership application 6 months ago. They called our ships primitive metal boxes." "They did," Daeun agreed, studying the tactical display as more Council ships went dark. "But right now they're dying, and there are innocent people on those ships." Chief Engineer Yeona spoke up from her station. "Captain, I'm reading civilian vessels in the area. The hegemony is targeting refugee ships and colony transports. They're not just fighting the Council fleet, they're massacring non-combatants." That decided it for Captain Daeun. She opened a communication channel to Admiral Jamin back on Earth and waited for the quantum transmission to connect across the light years. "Admiral, this is Captain Daeun, aboard the Defiance. The Council fleet is being destroyed by hegemony forces, and they're targeting civilian ships. Request permission to intervene." Admiral Jamin's face appeared on the screen, and Daeun could see President Hyon standing behind him in the command center. The 2 most powerful men in human space conferred quietly for a moment before Admiral Jamin responded. "Captain, the Council rejected our membership and called our technology primitive. Why should we risk human lives to save them?" "Because it's the right thing to do, sir," Daeun replied without hesitation. "And because if we don't stop the hegemony here, they'll be attacking human colonies next." President Hyon stepped forward. "Captain Daeun, you are authorized to engage enemy forces. Show the galaxy what human ships can really do." As the transmission ended, Lieutenant Sun Ho looked at his captain with a mixture of excitement and concern. "Ma'am, we're 1 ship against 300. Even with our upgrades, those odds are not good." Captain Daeun smiled, and it was the same expression she had worn when reading about the Council's rejection months earlier. "Lieutenant, activate our cloaking system and prepare to decloak directly in the middle of the enemy formation. Signal the rest of the human fleet to jump to our position." "The rest of the fleet?" Sun Ho asked. "Did you think Admiral Jamin would send just 1 ship to observe this battle?" Daeun replied. The entire Third Fleet has been waiting in hyperspace for my signal. Chief Engineer Yona began powering up systems that the Galactic Council had never seen and would not have believed possible. The UES Defiance was about to prove that human engineering was not primitive at all, just different in ways the aliens had never imagined. All stations report ready for combat, Lieutenant Sunho announced. Captain Daeun looked at the tactical display one more time, watching the hegemony ships continue their systematic destruction of the Council fleet. Admiral Kyung's flagship was barely functioning, Chancellor Minho's vessel was drifting without power, and Ambassador Soman's ship had gone silent. "Decloak the ship," she ordered, "and send a message to General Wu Jin. Tell him the humans have arrived." The UES Defiance materialized in the center of the battlefield like a metal mountain appearing from nowhere, followed by 29 other human ships that dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. The human vessels looked exactly as crude and primitive as the aliens remembered, their thick armor, plating, and angular designs standing in stark contrast to the elegant curves of council ships and the chaotic patchwork of hegemony vessels. General Wu Jin stared at his tactical display, in disbelief as the human ships appeared. The timing was perfect to catch his forces scattered across the battlefield, but he could not understand why such a small fleet would dare to engage his 300 ships. His intelligence reports on human military capability suggested their technology was centuries behind current galactic standards. "General," his tactical officer reported, "the human ships are broadcasting on all frequencies. They're demanding our immediate surrender." "Surrender?" General Wu Jin laughed, a harsh sound that echoed across his bridge. 30 primitive ships against my entire fleet? Send half our forces to destroy them quickly, then we'll finish off what's left of the Council. On the bridge of the Stellar, Harmony, Admiral Kyung watched the human ships with a mixture of gratitude and despair. The humans had come to help, but 30 ships could not possibly make a difference against the overwhelming hegemony force. He opened a communication channel to the UES Defiance. "Captain Daeun," Admiral Kyung said, his voice weak from the damage his ship had sustained. "I appreciate your courage in coming to assist us, but you must withdraw immediately. The hegemony fleet will destroy your ships in minutes." Captain Daeun's face appeared on his screen, and Admiral Kyung was surprised to see her calm confidence. "Admiral, with respect, I think you're about to discover that human ships are not as primitive as you believed. The first hegemony ships to engage the humans. Learn this lesson in the most direct way possible." Captain Daeun had positioned her fleet so that the approaching enemy vessels would have to pass through a narrow corridor between two disabled council ships. It was a classic tactical move designed to force the enemy into a concentrated area, where superior firepower could be brought to bear. "Lieutenant Sunho," Captain Daeun said calmly, "you may fire when ready." The human weapons that the aliens had dismissed as primitive projectile systems spoke with a voice that had never been heard in galactic warfare. Railgun rounds accelerated to 10% of light speed crossed the void in seconds, and the first hegemony ship to take a direct hit simply disintegrated. The kinetic energy transfer was so complete that the vessel vanished in a brief flare of light as its molecular structure collapsed. "What was that?" General Wu Jin demanded, staring at the empty space where one of his heavy cruisers had been moments before. "Sir, the human ship fired some kind of projectile weapon," his tactical officer replied, studying sensor readings that made no sense. "The impact energy was equivalent to a direct hit from a stellar core torpedo." "Impossible," General Wu Jin said. "Their weapons are primitive chemical propulsion systems." The second hegemony ship learned otherwise as a nuclear torpedo from the human destroyer UES Relentless detonated against its hull. The explosion was not the clean energy burst of advanced weapons, but a crude nuclear fission reaction that tore through the enemy vessel's armor like paper. Radiation and shrapnel spread out in all directions, damaging 3 other hegemony ships that had been flying in close formation. Chief Engineer Yona monitored the battle from her station aboard the defiance, and smiled as she watched human weapons systems perform exactly as designed. "Captain, our railgun systems are operating at optimal efficiency. The enemy shields are not even slowing down our projectiles." "Why would they?" Lieutenant Sun Ho asked as he targeted another hegemony vessel. "Their shields are designed to deflect energy weapons. A solid projectile moving at relativistic speeds just passes right through." The hegemony forces quickly realized they faced something completely outside their experience. Human ships did not fight like council vessels with elegant energy weapons and careful formations. They fought like the metal fortresses they appeared to be, absorbing enormous amounts of damage while delivering devastating kinetic strikes that punched through any defense. Captain Daeun watched 3 hegemony ships concentrate their fire on the human cruiser UES Thunderbolt, and was amazed to see the ship continue fighting even after taking direct hits from missiles and energy weapons. The human vessel's armor was scorched and pitted, but its structural integrity remained intact. "All human ships, this is Captain Daeun," she broadcast on the fleet frequency. "The enemy is using concentrated fire tactics, spread formation, and use overlapping fields of fire." The human fleet responded with the precision of a military force that had learned warfare in the harsh environment of space where mistakes meant death. Each ship moved to support its neighbors while maintaining clear firing lanes for their railgun systems. It was not beautiful like the council formations, but it was brutally effective. General Wu Jin found himself facing a tactical nightmare. His ships were designed to fight enemies that used energy shields and plasma weapons, but the humans seemed to ignore conventional defensive systems entirely. Their projectile weapons punched through shields as if they did not exist, and their nuclear torpedoes created massive explosions that damaged multiple ships at once. "General, we've lost 40 ships in 10 minutes, his tactical officer reported. "The human weapons are unlike anything in our database." "They're just throwing rocks," General Wu Jin shouted. But even as he said it, another of his cruisers vanished under the impact of a human railgun round. Captain Daeun decided it was time to demonstrate human boarding tactics. She opened a communication channel to Marine Commander Hyun Woo, who was waiting with his assault team in the Defiance's shuttle bay. "Commander, select a target for boarding action," she ordered. "Yes, ma'am," Hyun Woo replied, studying the tactical display. "The hegemony command ship looks like our best option. If we can capture their general, the rest of the fleet might surrender. Do it." The human boarding shuttles were not elegant like council transportation, but they were fast and nearly indestructible. Commander Hyunwoo led 20 Marines in powered armor toward General Wu Jin's flagship, using the confusion of battle to approach undetected. The hegemony crew discovered too late that humans were not just dangerous in space combat. Human soldiers were larger and stronger than most alien species, and their powered armor made them nearly unstoppable in close-quarters combat. The boarding action lasted only minutes before Commander Hyunwoo's voice crackled over the communication system. "Captain Daeun, we have secured the enemy command ship. General Wu Jin is our prisoner, and the remaining crew has surrendered." The effect on the hegemony fleet was immediate. Without their commander and facing weapons they could not understand or counter, the remaining ships began to retreat. Some tried to surrender, others fled toward hyperspace, and a few simply shut down their engines and drifted. Admiral Kyung watched the impossible victory unfold on his tactical display. In less than 30 minutes, 30 human ships had completely destroyed or routed a hegemony fleet of 300 vessels. The weapons that the Council had dismissed as primitive had proven more effective than anything in their own arsenal. "Captain Daeun," Admiral Kyung called over the communication system, "how is this possible? Your weapons technology appeared so crude during your application review." Captain Daeun's image appeared on his screen and she was smiling. "Admiral, you assumed that different meant inferior. Human weapons are designed for different threats than what you face in your region of space. We learned to fight in an environment where energy shields and plasma weapons were not available." Chief Engineer Yeona appeared beside Captain Daeun. Our railguns use magnetic acceleration to propel solid projectiles at relativistic speeds. The kinetic energy transfer is enormous, and there's no known shield technology that can stop a solid object moving at 10% of light speed. And your nuclear weapons? Admiral Kyung asked. Atomic fission and fusion reactions, Lieutenant Sunho explained. Crude by your standards, perhaps, but very effective against targets that rely on energy shields for protection. As the battle ended and human ships began rescue operations for the disabled Council vessels, Admiral Kyung realized that humanity had just saved the Galactic Council from complete destruction using technology that every member species had abandoned thousands of years earlier. The irony was not lost on him. The Council had rejected human membership because their weapons seemed too primitive. But those same primitive weapons had just won a victory that the most advanced technology in the galaxy could not achieve. Captain Daeun, Admiral Kyung said, quietly, I believe the Council owes humanity an apology. 2 weeks after the Battle of Kepler Sector, the human fleet returned to Galactic Council Space Station Nexus 7 as the heroes of the greatest military victory in Council history. Admiral Kyung personally escorted the UES Defiance to the station, his own flagship flying alongside the human vessel that had saved his fleet from complete annihilation. The massive space station buzzed with activity as news of the human victory spread across the galaxy. Ships from dozens of different species had come to see the mysterious human vessels that had defeated the hegemony using weapons that everyone believed were obsolete. The same aliens who had laughed at human technology months earlier now studied the human ships with a mixture of awe and confusion. Commander Ji Woo stood once again in the Great Council chamber, but this time the atmosphere was completely different. The floating seats were packed with delegates from every member species, and instead of dismissive laughter, she heard respectful murmurs as she walked to the center of the hall. Science advisor Hana walked beside her, carrying data pads filled with technical specifications that the Council had specifically requested. Chancellor Minho floated down from his high seat, his crystal body glowing bright blue with what Jiwoo now knew was excitement. The wounds from the battle were still visible on his crystalline surface, but he moved with energy and purpose. Behind him came Admiral Kyung, whose blue skin showed patterns of deep respect. Commander Jiwoo, Chancellor Minho said, his voice carried by translators that made every word sound like music. The Galactic Council wishes to formally apologize for our previous rejection of humanity's membership application. We made judgments based on incomplete information and our own limited understanding of warfare. We were wrong, Admiral Kyung added simply. We saw your ships and weapons as primitive because they were different from our own technology. We failed to recognize that different approaches can be equally valid, or in your case, superior. The Baye chamber fell silent as delegates waited for Jiwoo's response. She looked around at the hundreds of alien faces, remembering how they had laughed at human engineering just months earlier. Now those same beings waited eagerly to hear what humanity would say to their apology. The Galactic Council's apology is accepted, Jiwoo said, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. Humanity understands that first impressions can be misleading. We hope that our future relationship will be based on mutual respect and understanding rather than assumptions about each other's capabilities. Ambassador So-min of the Ethereal Coalition rose from her seat, her ethereal form shimmering with gratitude. Commander Jiwoo, on behalf of all the civilians your fleet saved during the battle, I want to express our deepest thanks. Human courage and skill prevented a massacre that would have cost millions of innocent lives. Humanity acts to protect the innocent, Jiwoo replied. This is our nature, regardless of whether those we protect are human or alien. Chancellor Minho activated the chamber's main display, which showed a formal document written in dozens of different alien languages. The Galactic Council unanimously votes to grant immediate full membership to humanity, with all rights and privileges thereof. Furthermore, we propose that Earth be granted a permanent seat on the Council's Military Advisory Board. The vote was unanimous, but this time it was 847 votes in favor, 0 against, 0 abstentions. The same chamber that had rejected humanity now welcomed them with enthusiasm that bordered on desperation. Every delegate understood that human military capabilities represented a revolution in galactic warfare. As the formal ceremonies continued, Admiral Jamin arrived from Earth aboard his flagship, accompanied by Dr. Jinwoo and a team of human engineers. Their mission was to establish the new Terran Council Military Alliance and begin sharing human military technology with Council forces. President Hyon appeared on the chamber's main screen, transmitting from Earth. "Honored delegates of the Galactic Council," he said, "humanity is pleased to accept membership in your organization. We look forward to working together to maintain peace and protect innocent life throughout the galaxy." However, President Hyon continued, "we must be clear about our terms. Humanity will share our military technology and tactical knowledge freely, but we expect the same openness from Council members. We will defend Council territories as if they were our own, but we expect Council forces to defend human colonies with equal commitment." Admiral Kyung stepped forward. "President Hyon, the Council accepts these terms without reservation. We have learned that humanity's approach to warfare is not primitive, but simply different from our own. We would be honored to learn from your experience." The real celebration began when Captain Daeun was promoted to Admiral and given command of the new integrated human-alien fleet. The ceremony took place in the station's main hangar, where the UES Defiant sat alongside Admiral Kyung's repaired flagship. The contrast between the ships was still striking, but now the aliens saw human engineering as an asset rather than an embarrassment. Lieutenant Sunho received promotion to captain and took command of the Defiance, while Chief Engineer Yona was appointed to head the new Integrated Technology Division. Her first assignment was to work with alien engineers to develop hybrid weapon systems that combined the best of both approaches to warfare. "The key insight," Dr. Jinwoo explained to a gathering of alien scientists, "is that energy weapons and kinetic weapons are not competing technologies. They're complementary systems designed to defeat different types of defenses. Human kinetic weapons excel against energy shields, while alien energy weapons are superior against kinetic armor." The alien scientists listened with fascination as Dr. Jinwoo outlined plans for ships that used both weapon types, protected by both energy shields and physical armor. The hybrid designs would be more effective than either purely human or purely alien vessels. Admiral Kyung, his pride completely replaced by respect for human capabilities, volunteered to serve as Admiral Daeun's second-in-command. "I have commanded fleets for 30 years, he told her, "but I have never seen tactical innovation like humanity displayed in the Kepler battle. I would be honored to learn from your experience." "And I would be honored to learn from yours," Admiral Daeun replied. "Human tactics work well against certain enemies, but we have much to learn about energy weapon systems and shield technology." The formation of mixed human-alien crews began immediately. Human officers served aboard alien ships to teach kinetic weapon systems, while alien officers joined human crews to share their knowledge of energy weapons and defensive systems. The cultural exchange was as important as the technological sharing. Commander Jiwoo was appointed as the first human ambassador to the Galactic Council, while Science Advisor Hana became the Director of Comparative Technology Studies. Their job was to ensure that the mistakes of the first contact would never be repeated with other species. As the celebrations continued, news arrived that would test the new alliance immediately. Scout ships reported that the hegemony had not been completely defeated in the Kepler battle. The survivors had retreated to their home territory and were rebuilding their forces with captured Council technology. "They'll be back," Admiral Daeun told the assembled commanders during a strategy meeting. "And next time they'll be prepared for human weapons." "Then we'll be prepared for them," Admiral Kyung replied. The combined Council human fleet will be stronger than either force could be alone. General Wu Jin, now a prisoner aboard a Council detention facility, was interrogated about hegemony military capabilities. The information he provided was disturbing. The hegemony had been preparing for a much larger war, and the attack on Council space was only the beginning of their expansion plans. They have mining operations in 40 star systems, Wu Jin revealed during questioning. Their goal is to control enough resources to build a fleet of 10,000 ships. The attack on your Council was just a test of your defenses. Admiral Daeun studied the intelligence reports with growing concern. 10,000 ships is more than the entire Council fleet. Even with human technology, we would be outnumbered 30-1. Then we need to ensure that other species don't make the same mistake the Council made, Admiral Jamin said over the communication link from Earth. We need to find allies who understand that different doesn't mean inferior. The final scene of humanity's integration into galactic society took place 3 months later, when Admiral Daeun led a mixed fleet of human and alien ships on their first joint patrol. The UES Defiance flew alongside the repaired Stellar Harmony, with ships from a dozen different species following in formation. Admiral, Captain Sunho reported from the Defiance's bridge, all ships report ready for hyperspace jump. Very good, Captain, Admiral Daeun replied from her new flagship, a hybrid vessel that combined human armor with alien energy systems. Set course for the Outer Rim. It's time to show the galaxy what unity looks like. As the fleet jumped to hyperspace, Admiral Kyung reflected on how much had changed since humanity's first application for Council membership. The aliens had learned that their advanced technology was not the only path to military effectiveness. Humans had learned that their isolationist approach to warfare was not the only way to protect innocent life.